I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Monroe County Stormwater Management Board, and it is Wednesday, December 13th, 2023. And the first item on the agenda is public input for items not on the agenda. Do we have any public input? No one on Zoom? Doesn't look like it. Then we'll move on to approval of the minutes for September 13th, 2023.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Then the stormwater expenditure reports for September, October, and November.
Hello, so we have 3 of them, and I'll try and get to them as quick as possible. So looking at that expenditures column in the top box, we start with office supplies. This was just for some regular office supplies that we use. The big purchase item was a laminator to help with some public education events and just using it around the office. Field crew supplies, we had a small charge just for spray. Fleet maintenance, this was a rather small bill for the month. A new Kenworth dump truck was outfitted with radios and decals. For seed, mulch, compost, and plantings, we had a big order of straw bales and grass seed. You can see here that we had a transfer from our backfill line into the seed, mulch, compost, and plantings. For our backfill line, we used a lot of stone that went towards ditch lines and a driveway culvert pipe install. So that composed most of the stone for backfill. For training and travel, we had Erica's and AFSM annual conference lodging. We did also receive a credit on our bill for a finance charge and late fee. That wasn't necessary to be applied. For on-call contract services, this was all for flagging from the end of August until the beginning of September. For disposal fees, this was for clean fill disposal. Printing and advertising, we had a stormwater equipment operator position job ad posted. Gas, oil, and lube, this was our August 2023 fuel usage. Lake Monroe water quality, this was dispersal of funds for an MOU for the septic maintenance education and cost share program that was approved. Utilities, we just received a credit from April of 2020 from a new meter, so that came through.
Nice. Patient people.
Yeah. The rental of equipment, this was a straw blower rental that we used. That's the end of September. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Okay, so move on to October. This is a long one. Looking at that expenditures line again at the top, this was for a driver qualification file for a new stormwater equipment operator. For field crew supplies, this was washout hose for street sweepers. You can see there was a correction made in this line of a charge that went originally to a repairs equipment vehicle, but or it should have come out of repairs equipment vehicle, and it did come out of field crew supplies, so we corrected that. For fleet maintenance, this was just a small bill again for general maintenance, oil and filters for dump truck primarily. Pipes, this was a charge for a pipe replacement on Lilac Court, and we also had some pipes go to stock. For the backfill pavement line, this was primarily stone for washout repairs, ditching, and some stone for our BMP sand filter pit that's out at the highway garage. For repairs equipment vehicle, these are some of those items that are used for street sweepers to repair clamps, noses, nozzles, and hoses. Training and travel, this is an AFSM conference per diem for Erica and Adam, and some remaining lodging charges that needed to still be paid for. On-call contract services, this was a bunch of flagging throughout September, August. There was some back from June that we didn't get an invoice for, so we paid that one. Disposal fees, this is for street sweeping disposal and clean fill disposal. Hydro seeding, here we just transferred from this line to the Lake Monroe water quality line. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get down there. For maintenance and good housekeeping, we transferred from this line to printing and advertising. And then for professional fees, we had drainage plan review fees for Christopher Burke Engineering. Public education and participation, this was just a fish tank that we purchased for, that we used at Bugfest and a STEAM event that Adam Rickard attended. Printing and advertising, this was another Indeed job ad posting for stormwater crew. Gas, oil, and lube, this was the September 2023 fuel usage. For the drug testing line, this was random drug testing screen and pre-employment drug screens for some stormwater crew members. The Lake Monroe water quality line, this was in lieu of sponsoring a picnic for the Monroe Lake Cleanup Week, we contributed towards gift certificate prizes. For rental of equipment, this was for a trench box, mini skid steer, a rake, a straw blower for that storm pipe replacement that was done on Lilac Court. And then a mini track loader and bucket rental for our BMP sand filter pit. If you have any questions about October, I'd be happy to answer those. Okay. Move on to November. Another long one. So plenty of field crew supplies here. Had a drill bit, tape, some extension cords, portable generator, marking paint, respirators, cement mixer, and wheelbarrow. For fleet maintenance, a dump truck had new brakes, a mini excavator had air filter replacement, new battery. Those were the major kind of charges on the fleet maintenance bill. For seed, mulch, compost, and plantings, this is for straw bales. The pipes line, we ordered a curb box for Vernal Pike. For backfill, pavement, repair materials, these are mostly riprap for ditch line, washout repairs, freight charges for hauling stone to our BMP sand filter pit. We had stone that went and was applied to South Shore Drive, which is something that occurs every year in stormwater recently. We also had some hauling expenses for that, geotextile material, and then we had concrete blocks for stock and putting an inlet box on Fernwood Drive. So there was a lot of backfill materials this month. Down in software, this is our annual cartograph software charge. On-call contract services, this is again all for flagging, mostly through October and early November. Disposal fees, this is for street sweeping disposal, clean fill dirt disposal, and brush disposal. For maintenance and good housekeeping, this is for items, rope, tarp, bungee cords, pull cord for our street sweepings, grabbers, tracing die, and a spill kit for out at the highway garage ahead of our MS4 audit. Professional fees, these are more drainage plan review fees by Christopher Burke Engineering. Public education and participation, this was our 2023 contractors workshop room reservation charge. Gas, oil, and lube, this is October 2023's fuel usage. Postage and freight, this was for 3 certified mail items. And then for equipment, this was for a portable generator. And that's it. Do you have any other questions?
Yes, and I'm going to kind of work backwards. I just want to make sure I'm following this correctly. So with the equipment, at the year beginning appropriation, we had 50,000. We have 5,914 for the expenditures in November. Total appropriation is $253,096, which made it look like at some point we did an in-house transfer of $203,096, $203,096 into that line. And our remaining budget is 17,538, which means we have 7% left.
That's correct.
I guess, I know we budgeted in for a truck for 2024. I'm curious of the in-house transfer of 200,000 some, if that was multiple in-house transfers, one in-house transfer, and then ultimately where those dollars were spent.
So the majority of this equipment line paid for our new tandem dump truck that we received at the beginning of the summer. Then we'll have a new single axle dump truck 2024's budget.
So we tapped into that line for a new vehicle, and then we're planning on purchasing a new one in 2024 as well?
Yes, I think Lisa is on if she would like to provide input on that, but that was, the purchase of the tandem was definitely run through
Okay.
The board.
Again, I'm just trying to follow this, and I do know that we've discussed purchasing new vehicles and such, but yeah, if Lisa wanted to provide anything else, I'm following along. I just wanted to kind of clarify because
Yeah. So I believe that truck was ordered, it was, and I'm at my desk so I can go back and look up. I believe the stormwater had older vehicles or used older vehicles from the county highway garage in the past. So we did order a tandem to replace one of those depleted, reused trucks. Then we ordered a single axle, a smaller version, to replace one of the older trucks that I believe that stormwater used to borrow through the highway department. And so we have been working over the past few years of stormwater having their own fleet. It's just, we have to kind of do it one at a time. And I believe it's taking a year to a year and a half for the trucks to come in. So the one that came in this summer was probably ordered in 2022, actually. And we could have been encumbering funds also.
and that's kind of my understanding is we had a lot of these discussions kind of in the 2022 with looking at getting a newer fleet for stormwater. Just a lot of dollars there. I just wanted to be kind of following along, and it looks like we encumbered the money, or we maybe spent the money and then found available funds to transfer to then obviously buy the new vehicles, and we might have already been obligated to purchase that. So great. Thank you. And then just one additional question, and I guess also followed with a comment, is the software renewal annual at $16,500 is what we appropriated. $16,189.93 is what we paid.
Yes, for stormwater.
I thought Cotograph was quite a bit more. For some reason, I thought we were paying about $73,000 from stormwater, and this is amazing because I think that with what we're doing with our GIS and Lynette and what stormwater and highways doing with Cotograph and making sure that we're not, duplicating software and, having a lot of extra, deliverables, if you will, that we're not going to utilize, and we're kind of duplicating, those tools that they provide. I'm excited to see this reduction. So, and I'm curious if you could just expand on that a bit more.
I think the overall bill might be 73,000, Tron, but we divide that out by users in 3 different divisions of the department.
Okay.
So highway pays the most because we have more users. We have dispatcher, we have our operations manager, all of our assistants using it. Stormwater and bridge crew pay a lesser amount because they have less users. Stormwater has increased some usage, but we take the overall invoice and then we divide it out by the usage per division of the department. So they've never paid 70-some thousand for this software.
Oh, okay. That might have been the integration of Cartograph. I don't want to try to recall everything from memory. So this is awesome, is all I'm saying, is we're only taking on this amount for stormwater. And I guess just to share that hopefully in 2024, you know, we can discuss and make sure that we aren't duplicating anything else that maybe we already have that could hopefully reduce some costs with our software. I guess the biggest thing to say about it is Cartograph is ESRI enterprise, and we have an enterprise here with ESRI as well. And not saying Cartograph doesn't provide a really good benefit and a good service, but we could be paying for certain things that could be incorporated into into our ELA because we have expanded our licenses. So I'm going to leave that with everyone else to discuss, but my main point is there's a possibility that we could even reduce more of our cost on some of these things on either end. So I know that's a bit ambiguous, but I've talked with everyone here enough where I feel like they got a good sense of what we're discussing because these have been ongoing conversations. So if anyone wants to ask me a clarifying question, please go ahead. I'm not trying to be ambiguous. It's just we're talking software and stuff, and it just there's a lot of moving parts.
Hey, Tron, if I can just, so in July 2022, the commissioners signed a 3-year agreement that was for $121,459.82 for 3 years of Cartograph. And then that amount, which is approximately a little over 40,000, is divided amongst our 3 divisions: highway, MVH, and stormwater.
And that's amazing because I had it wrong. I thought we were paying a lot more out of stormwater for that. So, but that's awesome. It's good news on my end.
Great.
All right, any other questions? I'm just a little curious what the certified mail was for.
So we had 3 letters to send for drainage easement violations. These were all after the fact enforcement letters, and we are working through those with the drainage board.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, let's move on to business. The 2024 Stormwater Management Board meeting dates. Does anyone have any questions, comments about those?
I just want to note that March 13th, I believe, is IU spring break. So it may be something where we want to just leave it on the calendar, but just be aware of it and be ready to change it if we need to.
Yes, that's the meeting. I just didn't have a great alternate date for that.
Sure.
I am most likely not going to be present for that March 13th date because that's also road school. And then the week after that, I also had a commitment on the Wednesday, so.
Why don't we just take it off our calendar?
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I just can't imagine anything that's,
Well, and if you're at road school that day anyway,
yeah.
I typically attend road school too. So just FYI, that's a couple of people. So I'm fine with taking it off, or if that is the pleasure of the board.
Motion?
I move to approve the schedule for the 2024 meeting of the Stormwater Management Board with the caveat that we remove the proposed meeting for March 13th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. And next we have a contract with Ecologic for invasive species removal.
Okay, yes, so I wrote you a memo to help explain this contract. I discussed invasive species removal with you, I want to say last year, earlier this year. And it took me a little bit to get a proposal. I went with Ecologic because they have certified applicators for pesticides and in general are very knowledgeable about native plant species as well. So getting the full picture on removing the invasives and then what we can do next to restore some of these areas. So we have 2 areas that I'm interested in getting invasive species removed fairly quickly in areas that the county is responsible for. The first main one is at the Highway Garage facility. There's a very tall reed there that was planted around the salt barns by my predecessor, Todd, who in really great intent was to plant something that was salt tolerant so we could get some vegetation in the ground, but still, you know, be able to tolerate the little poor soil quality there. But that plant is incredibly invasive. It's spread back there. It's spreading into some of the storage areas, and I don't want it to go downstream, which is Cars Farm Park, and I really want to make sure that we get rid of it before it spreads too far off site. So that one is a very aggressive plant. So once we spend the next year or 2 getting rid of it, as you can see, they put in 2 treatments for that into the contract. I'll look to replant that area with a native grass that is still going to be hardy enough to withstand some little bit rougher environment, but will be something that is native and not as aggressive. So, all right, so the other location is the area at the Fieldstone Dam that is within the gated control area. I'm going to pull up a map, actually. It's going to be way easier to explain with a map. So, let's see. So, the Fieldstone HOA is responsible for maintaining their common area, including this regional detention pond. This drains up, it's upstream from the airport and Cavewood Court, where we have extensive downstream flooding at the Cave Creek terminal sinkhole, where it goes underground. So the county is responsible for operating the sluice gates in this dam. And as you know, several years ago, Terry Quillman led a project rebuilding the gates and updating the control panel, which it's been great for the most part. But there is an area, I thought I tried to turn off the floodplain layer here so you can see it better. But there's an area that's within a gate on top of the dam, and nobody else has a key except for myself and crew supervisor, and I've made one other available in case of emergencies for our other staff. But the Fieldstone HOA does not have a key. They can't enter this area. It's this little square box here on top of the dam. And I, speaking with them and all this, the county is responsible for vegetation removal within this small area, within the gated area, because we're the only ones with access to it. We've done some mechanical removal, maybe once a year, just knock things down, but there's some woody vegetation growing up in there that needs to be removed sooner rather than later. Should have been done probably a couple of years ago, honestly. But you don't want anything with big roots like that growing in the dam, so it really needs to be removed. So Ecologic will be able to come in and do a cut stump treatment so that they're only applying as little herbicide as possible, but we'll ensure that we remove the vegetation and kill the roots so that they don't damage the dam. So I went to the Fieldstone HOA's meeting last Monday, so I was able to talk to the board. It was a really great discussion to catch up with them on maintenance projects that they have planned around here and to coordinate all of this. So yeah, those are my 2 little areas right now. And I'll pull the proposal back up for you so you can see it.
All right, all right. Are there any questions?
Well, you're the one that knows about taking care of plants.
Do we need a motion?
Yes,
Do we need a
before discussion? Doesn't matter.
I guess just the proposal price that we're looking at that you have on the screen now,
Yes.
it has the not to exceed, right, on this one as well. Regardless, I think that's not that high of a cost. And I guess what they're removing from the little operational point on the dam, regardless if that's just vegetation or invasiveness, they're going to remove it. And
Yes.
This is going to include that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that one's just general vegetation removal.
Right, and I wanted to make sure that we account for that as well, and we're not just asking for invasive, just in case.
Yes.
Pretty cool. I think Ecologic's a good resource here in Monroe County. So that's all my comments, questions.
I'll move approval of the proposal for invasive species and vegetation removal with Ecologic LLC in the amount specified in the packet for removal of the, I can't even say it, total area water was in for amount of $2,947.25, and the total area 2 on the east side at Fieldstone for $1,024.25.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
I guess for in the future, just kind of a progress status update of how we're really going to address this, because I know that when I first came on, and I know Commissioner Thomas was here, and I can't be definitive if Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Githens was here on the board, but we had attempted to put in an automation component where we're not always out there on the field to operate it. And I'm wondering if removing this vegetation is maybe going to be one step in the direction of, considering what we're going to do long term with that. Are we going to try to build out another automation type thing? That was a pretty heavy cost and it seemed not to be a fix, because we're kind of maintaining it how we had prior to that. And this could be for a later date, but I'm really kind of curious of what your thoughts are for long-term maintenance of that. And maybe this is a good first step of trying to kind of dig into that a bit more as well.
Sure. I think the vegetation management, I think needs to happen no matter what. It should be regular maintenance, so you may see more of this work contracted out in the future. For the controls and the software, so I've had issues with the software company, and I think it could have worked really well, but I think that company just took a hit with the pandemic. That's kind of what I'm attributing it to. But it seems like they've sort of fallen apart, and their customer service was not very useful. I have really poor lack of communication with them. So right now I'm sort of stuck with the software company. I sent them an antenna modem back to them to be reformatted, and that was the issue, and they lost it. And I had Dave Schilling involved to see what my next steps were. He advised me that it would be a lot of money to go after something for a inexpensive piece of equipment, really tricky. I've looked at alternatives. I've gotten a few quotes from some companies, but I haven't really moved forward yet on that. That's a 2024 problem.
And that's my whole point, is this could be the impetus of reevaluating, reassessing, and kind of giving us, some feedback of what the long-term maintenance is going to be on there.
Yeah.
And I know we've discussed this at the Drainage Board a couple of times, but my main concern is if we can't get out there in a timely manner and it's completely 100% manual, where maybe we could have some automation that could close those sluice gates a bit prior to someone actually being boots on the ground could
Yeah.
really help mitigate and prevent potential flash flooding downstream. So
Yeah.
that, I know that you're working towards that, and
Mhm.
I think this was a good,
Yeah.
way to bring that up and,
Okay.
allow you the ability to come back to us to let us know what we need to do
Sure.
or how we need to support you to
Mhm.
figure out a long-term maintenance plan for that.
Sure. I will definitely communicate with you if I find that I am approaching a feasible solution. I have involved tech services as well on this to let them know, so that they have a say in, future plans for it. I'm just not at the point where I have a good solution. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up because I should update you on that. And that's why I have extra keys, by the way. So if I'm out of town or Jason, the stormwater crew is out of town, we always coordinate who's going to have coverage to do that. And I watch the weather a lot. We close the sluice gates sometimes out of an abundance of caution. If it's going to be a toss-up, what the evening might bring, so that I can sleep soundly, sometimes we'll just close it just out of an abundance of caution. The homeowners downstream actually prefer we do it this way because they don't trust the software. But if I could do it remotely, even that would be helpful, but just wanted to explain that. Okay.
Anything further? It does seem to me I've been hearing about the field's drainage for about 15 years now. It'd be nice if we could get that straightened out. All right, everyone in favor of the contract with Ecologic for invasive species
We
removal?
should have public comments.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if
I'm
anyone's on.
sorry. Do we have any public comment? It doesn't look like it. So, everyone in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank
And
you.
our next item for business is a contract with Smith Design for storm sewer design on South Rogers Street.
Okay, so this is a small design contract to help me, design a replacement that was actually necessitated by an upstream development. I got them to make improvements downstream as long as I could, and then the rest of it will be, I told them that the county would take care of that pipe replacement. So we have a pipe under South Rogers Street that is in fair condition. It's fairly old, but the main reason why I'm really wanting to pursue this is that from the engineer's calculations, they found that it was undersized, and then it drains directly into the floodplain before it goes between two homes. So to me, it was a great opportunity to replace this pipe and make these improvements ahead of the development. The development in question is this rectangle here at the southeast corner of South Rogers Street and that road. So they'll be outletting their detention pond down South Rogers Street to our existing culvert. So the culvert is located under South Rogers Street and actually extends between two homes before outletting to a ditch that then discharges to Clear Creek to the west. This one is just going to be a little trickier. It's not just a typical culvert replacement. Typically, if I have the sizing information, it's something we could do in-house fairly easily. But we have floodplain, for one, over part of this area. So the yellow is our 100-year floodplain. So a portion of the pipe will be in the floodplain, and there are considerations for that to make sure that we have enough cover over the pipe. The fact that we're working between two homes, I want an engineer to look at the profile of the pipe to make sure that everything's going to work. And then we have a 6-inch water main that CBU owns that runs perpendicular to our culvert here. And I'm hoping we can make it work without any conflicts with that water line. But regardless, we're going to have to work close with CBU to show them our proposed profile for the pipe, how close it's going to be, and the considerations that they require when working near their utility. So just a couple things that made this a little bit more complicated. So Katie Stein from Smith Design Group already had the calculations and surveying because she designed or the firm designed the development upstream. And so I think it'd be great to work with them for finishing up design on this project.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments?
Can I ask you to clarify and specify what that additional demand is that's leading to this having to be done?
Sure. So when they're designing the detention pond upstream, they're going to have to install new curb and gutter along this portion of South Rogers Street. And we need a place to outlet their pipe. Because we don't have existing inlets and pipes, curb and gutter along South Rogers Street, it's just a culvert under the road. So to be able to discharge the curb and gutter to that culvert, they're gonna have to install a manhole right there. So I said, before you install that manhole, right now we have a 30-inch pipe there, but there really should be a 36-inch. If I were to have to replace this after the fact, I would need to also replace that new manhole because I would have to have a different size hole in it, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
so who decided on the curb and gutter?
The engineer proposed that with their site plan design, and Paul and I
For
reviewed
which
it.
project again?
I'm sorry?
Which project?
This is for the CI&L Clear Creek development, also called Blind Squirrels Development, also
Got it.
called Joseph Green PUD.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good, thank you. I just wanted to hear it out loud.
Sure.
Thank you.
It's on the record.
Thank you.
Join our drainage board. We went into it quite significantly on this discussion. Just FYI, I guess. I don't think you need to waste your hour or your time, but yeah, it looked like this developments upstream could have addressed this, but we're here after the fact, and this is what's needed. And I'm happy that we're taking the effort to remedy the situation, since it was something that was missed during the development petition process. And I agree with Julie. It's nice to hear that that's why.
Yeah, I don't think it was,
Outside of that, I guess I think my only other comment is I like that we're working with Katie Stein with Smith Design Group and stuff, because she's been involved in some of these other projects. So we'll be able to utilize that knowledge and skill set that she brings to what we're looking at here with sizing up. So, and
Yeah.
I think the cost is pretty easy, and it looks like the not to exceed is $1,500. Is that?
That was per hour.
See, that's where I'm a little confused on this. I was wondering what the bottom dollar is.
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
so the total contract is not to exceed 1,500. They provided an
what I
hourly
thought.
table at the end. Sorry, I'm scribbling a
It
lot.
says hourly not to exceed 1,500.
Yeah,
I think that if you take that word hourly out, it would make more
yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
I read it as 1,500 not to exceed.
Okay.
Yes. And their
So-
hourly rates are in
It's just a
the
small design
table.
project. I mean, there are things to look at with the floodplain, but it is not a lot of space and it's not a huge project, so
Right, and that's
1,500 sounded about right.
yeah.
Okay.
It's
All right.
to me that's
I
not
think I
too
made an
much.
assumption in there.
So.
Anything else? Well, I would like to say that I think it's going to become increasingly important that when we look at new development projects, we put a lot of attention into the drainage for it and really start taking this a lot more seriously than we have in the past. All right, is there any public comment?
We need a motion.
Oh,
Yeah, make a motion. I need to make a motion.
Yeah, I move that we accept that we contract with engineering, with Smith Engineering for services for storm sewer replacement at 4900 South Rogers Street, with the understanding that it is an amount not to exceed $1,500.
Second.
all right. Now, everyone who's in favor of the contract with Smith Design for storm sewer design on South Rogers Street, please say aye.
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 Motion passes.
Aye, yeah. I guess, sorry to hold up, but would it be easier to strike out the hourly for the not to exceed before it makes it to the commissioner's desk
No,
for
it's fine.
approval? No,
We're
you're,
all here.
no,
We'll
I know.
remember.
I'm just saying it's an easy fix So-
Yes.
Yeah, I
So-
can make sure that their hourly rate table is in there
as
for
well.
that meeting,
Okay.
so that will
There
help.
you go.
That could be
We'll
helpful.
try to remember too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know. I don't trust myself.
Yeah. I just wrote a note on my hand, but
Yeah.
I better not
Don't
get
watch.
to write it somewhere else.
Yeah.
All right, our next business is the 2024 LARE grant application for log jam removal on Brummets Creek.
So this isn't in our packet, right?
No, there's
Okay.
nothing
Okay.
in the packet for this. Last year, well, I guess it was
Has it
January
been
this
in-
year, we applied for it. We applied for a LAIR grant through the Department of Natural Resources for logjam removal on Brummets Creek. It addressed a large logjam that had formed that was adjacent to County Road on the Corps of Engineers property. Corps of Engineers told me if we wanted it removed, we would have to apply to DNR for a grant or do it ourselves. So that project was really successful. We received a lot of positive feedback from the residents who live near this area that it helped a lot. From the environmental standpoint, log jams can cause a lot of stream bank erosion, and they can cause issues with the water moving elsewhere because they have a blockage in the stream. So although we do like woody debris for habitat, it does cause a lot of erosion issues. And that's the main reason why DNR has this program in place to help with removal. Well, during the removal of the logjam early this year, we also saw one downstream, so similar situation. When DNR came out to do the closeout inspection with me for the project we completed this spring, we also took a look at this other logjam downstream, and he said that they would be supportive of an application if we were to apply again next year. So the location, you can see this is Brummets Creek on the east side of the county, north of State Road 46. The location, I'm going to turn off our floodplain. You get the point, it's in the floodplain. The location is south of Fleener Road. One of our, this one is just downstream from one of our bridges here. You can kind of see the beginnings of it here from the older imagery, but I will be compiling the application, and I wanted to take this to you before I do that. We would be paying about 25% match for this. Last year, the total project cost was about $10,000, and DNR provided about $7,000 of that. So that's one part. But I also have actually a portion on private property farther upstream that the homeowners have asked that we help them with that, because as a local government, we are eligible to apply for this, but they cannot. So I also brought DNR out to this property, and he said as well that it would be a great project. So
would the homeowner be responsible for that small portion match themselves on their property, and then we would pay for the other locations?
that's how I communicated it to them so far. So
And that's fair, and,
Mhm.
and that's a good service to them.
I think it's up here somewhere.
Yeah.
Farther upstream. So
Any further questions or comments?
I think it will protect County Road that's right next to it. So I think this is a very good plan.
My only comment is, I just want to applaud Kelsey. Some of these things, I think, happen, and the amount of effort and time and different resources or different ways to remedy some of these log jams get very difficult, especially when you're working with the Corps and, or IDEM or the EPA, like that's a lot of different things that she has to navigate and go through. And it's tedious, tiresome, and, I'm just thrilled that you have that determination when you start one of these projects that you want to see it through. And I'm happy to be here today to support you on another one. So,
thanks.
All right, is there any public comment? Seeing none, do we need a?
I'm not
Do we
sure
not
I
have a
understand what,
motion again?
we don't have a motion, but I also don't understand what we'd be voting on, so I'm not sure that this agenda is accurate. I don't know what
Asking
we
for,
have to
yeah, I
vote
asked
on.
for a vote. I don't know if you necessarily need to vote on it. It's more of me giving you the opportunity
Yeah.
if it's something you feel you need to vote on, because I will be applying for a grant from the
Oh,
county.
please do.
So,
How about
Great.
that
Okay.
consensus? Please
Yes,
do.
please.
Yes,
Please.
yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Will do.
That works.
Yeah.
When I have a bill in the spring, I'll let you know.
Awesome.
Thanks for doing this also, yeah.
Yeah. All right, staff reports, Monroe County Soil and Water Conservation District.
Hello.
Hello, Miss Miller.
How are you all? So I did not get, did you get the email that I sent this in? I sent it right almost before I came down here because I didn't realize what time it was. You have in your packet a report. As we prepare at Soil and Water to celebrate 80 years of existence, it became apparent to me as I start going through records, looking at things, where we're at with all sorts of things. I checked off 20 years with the district in September, and in digging for information on the stormwater program and what we've done with them over the years, we've been working with stormwater for 10 years. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing, and I wanted to share that with you all, and thank you for your support. It kind of outlines what the original mission was when we started. We actually started talking in 2013. It became official in 2014. That's the first time we received funding from the Stormwater Board for anything. Youth impact, the reason that soil is so important to water quality and how it plays in the big picture of things. But the big picture was that we received $325,000 in total from the county in the last 10 years. 277,000 of that went directly back to landowners. So the people who are paying the fee actually were able to use that money directly. That's 150 projects, roughly 100 to 125 individual landowners over the last 10 years. 48,000 of that over that 10-year period was roughly, $4,800 a year, give or take, on education materials, projects that we've done together with stormwater. For a while, a few years in there, we paid for some summer staffing to help with the educational component. We don't do that any longer, haven't for a while. So I just kind of wanted to bring those numbers up to snuff for everybody of what the big picture was. Last month, I sent a report to you all to let you know that we had expenditured the whole $35,000 from last year. So we have a tiny little bit that's allocated for a couple projects that are not going to get finished this year, and we'll pay them out in 2024. But most of that money is all completely gone. With that said, I also wanted to just let you all know, first of all, awesome on the layer grants. We've had a couple of layer grants over the years for log jam removal, and they're a trip. So they are a lot of work and a lot of effort, so awesome on that. With that said, is Brummett Creek, is it in Bean Blossom or is it in Lake Monroe? Okay, I thought so, but I wasn't sure without looking at the map. We have received an IDEM 319 or 205J grant for Bean Blossom watershed. In 2010, let me back up. In 2005, HEC wrote a plan for Bean Blossom. In 2010, when that plan was complete, the Soil and Water District picked it up and applied for implementation funds. And so we implemented a little over $600,000 in that watershed in 2010, 11, and 12. We know that plan is outdated according to IDEM's guidelines. So we applied and they accepted the application. So we will be updating or redoing that plan over the next 2 to 3 years, and then we will be going for more implementation. Hope to work with Kelsey on some things up there as far as some log jams in that one and stuff too that'll complement this. We also, at the same time, applied for a planning grant for Indian Creek, which is down in the southern section. And IDEM came back to us and said, would you hold off for 1 year to do that? And if we do that, we will give you the planning grant and 2 years of implementation funding. They're doing a TMDL study. So in 2024, IDEM will actually be doing the water quality study for that watershed. And because of that, they were actually at our board meeting just this past Monday to give us all the details and updates. So we'll be getting implementation money to do a plan and conservation practices or implementation in that watershed. So we'll have 2 watershed projects happening at the same time, which I swore I would never do after the last one, but here I am. For some other things. Oh, Lawrence County has a implementation for Lower Salt Creek, which is what drains, when it comes out of the lake, it goes into Lower Salt Creek. They did the planning grant previously, have implementation funds will execute. That will start in 2024 as well. And there's this unique opportunity right now through our partner. It's called the MRBI, or Mississippi River Basin Initiative, and the entire state of Indiana is in it, but you have to apply for it. So Lawrence County was not interested in putting in for that funding at this time, so Monroe County, SWCD, or I wrote, and we got another $370,000 for implementation in that watershed. That will work through our partners. Most of the projects in that watershed that are EQIP-based will be automatically guaranteed funding until that funding is gone. If MRBI still exists when we get to implementation for Bean Blossom, we'll go after it for that as well. So a lot of money coming down the pipeline from the federal level. In addition to all of that, over this 10-year period, actually a little bit before that, we've also secured $32,200 some odd in additional grant funding for implementation activities. A lot of those go to invasive species or other, projects that we've done. We did a restoration project in Ellettsville. We worked with South High School to put in a rain garden. We've done some of those kinds of things. The match money for our first 319 was almost $300,000 that we came up with as a one staff operation. So kind of proud of that. I think that's something to say. If there's anyone here or anyone listening, particularly Kelsey and Tron, we will start having steering committee meetings probably in February, IDEM has said. So I'll be reaching out. Would love to have anybody who wants to help us with that, do that. And I think that's all I have.
Thank you.
Oh, no, I'm sorry,
Nope.
I lied.
Okay.
We currently have a grant-funded employee, and she will be going through the Indiana Watershed Leadership Academy. I did that many, many years ago when it was first a thing. And so the Soil and Water Board applied for a scholarship for her to be able to do that. And then you were talking about broadcast seating. I don't know if you're aware that the district actually purchased a small broadcast seater that can be pulled behind an ATV. So if you ever do need to use that, please let me know and we'll make that happen. We also applied for a grant and are getting a new drill. So first time in 30 years. So we're pretty excited about that. That's it, unless you got questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
When you get these grants for the watershed areas, what exactly does the money go for? I'm completely uneducated in these things.
I would actually love to have you sit in on our steering committees. That would be awesome. So watershed planning is complex. You look at the water biology, you look at the aquatic biology. I'm pretty excited they are going to do at some point, what's it called, a fish, where they stun the fish to do an aquatic account. So I've asked them, can I go along? I've always wanted to do that. So they'll look at all that. But primarily a watershed plan is looking at land use. It's looking at what land use activities are happening in that body or area that are impacting the water quality. So that's done through a lot of different ways. We'll do a windshield survey where we actually physically go out and do a drive. That'll probably take 2 or 3 days, to be honest with you. They'll also do a lot of aerial looking at maps and things like that. We'll talk with Kelsey about some of the things that she's discovered being out there. And then you take all of that, collectively put it together into maps and data sets, and try to identify which of the subsets of that watershed are the most critically impaired. And then once you do that, you try to find ways to actually implement things to make a change in the watershed. That's where the implementation funding comes from, predominantly for agriculture, but there are some urban opportunities as well. There's not a lot of urban in that particular watershed. A little bit, anything north of the courthouse, is it 11th Street? I think it's 11th Street's where the line's at, so anything north of 11th Street's in Bean Blossom. We'll be looking at ways to identify and fix those things. So do you know what Maggie Sullivan does for Friends of Lake Monroe? That's what we're gonna do for Bean Blossom and Indian Creek. It's that kind of concept.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Well, I'm not quite sure how the money gets spent, what you spend it on.
Oh, well, the one part of that is actually having a consultant for the plan part,
Okay,
because I don't have time to write the plan.
right.
While I have the certification to do it, I don't have the time. So part of that's where that the planning money will go. Implementation will actually go on the ground to the producers, just like Kelsey was explaining the 25-75 split. We will actually get money to cost share with people who have projects that they want to actually do on their property. Depending if we go after a layer that can complement it, because that's state money and 319s are federal money. So we could, in theory, match a layer to a 319 to make that money go farther. But implementation side is predominantly paid back to landowners.
But what you don't spend on consultants, you can spend on cost-sharing programs and projects. I'm part of that Lake Monroe watershed study. We're still reviewing additional cost-share proposals. We've got another meeting Friday. So
Yeah.
it's a long process.
Right. It
that
is.
part of it.
And it's the same
But-
concept. You know, Maggie comes to us and talks to us about things, and Maggie and I go way back and had long conversations before she ever became the watershed coordinator. And we talked about those kinds of things too. So yeah, there's a whole process that you go through to get there. But the initial part is the planning part, writing the plan, getting all the partners to the table, making sure you hear everybody's voice, and that can be a little tricky. So.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
No questions, just a couple comments. And I've done a couple different steering committees. At the Lower Salt Creek Steering Committee, there's so many factors, and it's always interesting where the dollars actually hit the ground. The reason I brought that up is I've also somehow participated in the White River report card, because we just have a little nook of the White River, and they created a way where you can pair into some of their analysis and reporting that I think is very just intuitive, and it kind of shows you kind of how they grade certain things individually. Again, I don't know if it actually goes to your direct question of where those dollars are going to be seen on the ground, but I think it starts to give you that idea of how big of a discussion and how many different factors come into play. And I just wanted to mention that for you. It's a very well put together report card, and I think it's easier for, the goal is to really have something that's easier for people to understand as such as a report card, because we're all familiar with that. And a is good and a F's bad, and I think they did a good way of condensing all this information and being able to present it in a way where people get a good sense of where we're at. But when you dive into each one of those, it starts getting pretty nuanced out. So
Yeah.
I'll just leave it there because I'm afraid I'll go into a tangent. Also, I'll say is I wrote you a letter of support for Indian Creek watershed in August 22nd, and congratulations. I think that's amazing. I can't wait to see how that's going to then kind of, as Commissioner Githens was saying, is really going to kind of, we're going to see where that impact is. But even also just identifying some of the issues is a big first step. And then I jotted down 2 other things. Oh, the bean blossom thing. I wrote a letter of support for that. And again, congratulations.
Thank you.
I think a lot of these are going to complement each other, because when we can start identifying certain things in certain watersheds, there could be a pattern with some of our growth that we have kind of in the county, around the county, in the city, and maybe some of these things could be indicators of how we could do a better job of managing our water quality in the county. So I think all of these efforts are going to complement each other. And again, even if it just indicates what we need to focus on and where some of the problems are, I think is a great first step. So, and then finally, but not least, congratulations on 20 years.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's been pretty neat to see all the changes that have happened in 20 years in the environmental side of things, both from the ag and the urban perspective. I will say I forgot that there are a lot of soil and water districts, my counterparts in the western side of the state, who are sort of in a scramble at the moment, because there's discussion about pulling water out of the Wabash watershed and moving it. And so the soil and water districts over there are hot and heavy on that one. And I keep my ear to the ground on that, but not a pulse on it, because it's not a direct contact for us, but it's enough to be concerning of what they're doing. And then one other thing that I thought of as I was doing this, so a lot of this money that's coming down the pike right now for conservation is coming through our federal partner NRCS. And a lot of people don't realize that according to statute, NRCS can't actually function in a county without a soil and water district. So soil and water district board has to exist in that county in order for the federal partners to be here. And I was actually telling Angie this just the other day in my searchings for stuff for our 80th annual meeting. With federal partner money alone, we have brought in over $6 million to Monroe County in the last 10 years. And that actually does come back to the county, because everybody pays personal income tax on all that money. And actually all this money, they pay personal income tax on as well. So anytime, even the grants, like, because we're governed by State Board of Accounts, and we're required to 1099 anybody over $600. So every one of these mini grants that we put out, those people are having to turn that in on their personal income tax, which brings money back to Monroe County. So just a little bit of fun information. So thank you all very much for your support. It's
Thank you.
Very appreciated.
Thank you.
And we now have a presentation on Stip Road, Morse Creek Road project.
I don't have planned a very long presentation for today. I probably could talk longer. I'm going to keep it very brief and share my screen somehow. All right, one moment. Sorry. All right. They'll have their own board meeting date on there. Man. All right, so the Stip Road and Morse Creek Road project has been in the works for many years, since about when Terry started, 2017, when he started thinking about it. It's been a very complicated road to get here, pun intended, because of course, this area is next to Lake Monroe on Corps of Engineers property. So I'm happy to say that things are moving along, and I am seeing construction in our near future. So as a refresher, the location of this project is southeast of Bloomington on Lake Monroe on Stip Road. And move on. I want to give you just a brief overview on what we are planning to do here. So the reason why we have to raise these portions of road is because they're located in areas that are underwater for extended periods of time whenever the lake level is too high. So under Terry's supervision, he went through and they evaluated the different lake levels, how high the water level gets for extended durations, and came to an agreement on the final elevation that these roads need to be at in order to minimize flooding. This should have been done when the reservoir was constructed. We all, I think, know that and agree on that. I know in the 90s, I think it was the 90s, the highway department did raise a portion from its Creek Road, Kent Road, some of those projects that were done previously. This is kind of just another one that we need to check the box to make sure that we do not have roads impacted by extended duration flooding from the reservoir. So we will raise the roads to about 555 feet and widen them to around 24 feet to meet county road standards. On Stip Road, we have an existing bridge that will be replaced because it's in fair condition, but the biggest issue is that it was not sized to meet our current standards, so it's not sized for a large enough storm event. So we will be, that's been redesigned to meet our standards and size for the appropriate rain event. We have several small culverts that will also be replaced. There will be a small retaining wall on a portion of Stip Road. The biggest thing that's been on my mind is the tree removal. Not all of the trees are really great quality, have a lot of pioneer species, a lot of softwoods like sycamore, red maple, but it's going to be a lot of them in a large area for our permanent right-of-way and temporary right-of-way during construction. About 1,000 trees total between the two portions of road. So I know this is going to be a big deal. We've hired Lockmuller Group for project management, utility coordination, and to help me manage all of this, because it's going to be a large, very visible project right next to the lake. I still have, we had discussed previously a tree replanting plan as well, so I'll update you on that. So you can see here, this is that 554.6 foot elevation contour outlined in the green. And so these sections of road will then be raised up above that so that they do not flood. We will start on the Moores Creek side. We have more homeowners impacted by this small section of road here. And then we'll do Stip Road. So we'll be doing this in phases, not all at once. Okay. So you can see the timeline. It did reach back all the way to 2017 when Terry Quillman was in this position. They worked on the design. They had a decision matrix to determine that roadway elevation. And then the Corps of Engineers came to us and said, yes, for sure, we want you to do an environmental assessment for this project. So 3 years later, we have an environmental assessment. In 2022, was thrilled to see that completed, and to be able to see that process was very neat as well. I have that on file in my office if anyone has any interest in that. So that environmental assessment outlines the decision-making process and the alternatives. One of the main decision factors was the tree removal and the size of the project. We could have raised the roads a little bit higher, which would eliminate all flooding. But the impact for tree clearing was going to be even larger than what we're currently doing, substantial. So we went with this alternative that had the roadway for almost every single rain event. In almost all instances, that road should stay clear of the floodwaters. So yeah, they went through the whole process. Getting the easement documents has been a whole nother thing with the Corps of Engineers. The last thing I need to do is just make sure that they've been recorded, but they were sent back to the Corps of Engineers this summer. So, all right. In the future, next step is going to be tree removal this winter. Construction beginning next year in 2024. Like I said, Moores Creek Road will be first, and then Stip Road after that. I'm assuming they will be done in separate seasons, so I'm anticipating a 2-year project. And yeah, once the project is completed, we will need to replant trees, and some trying to figure out how that's going to work into the construction bidding documents, how that's going to work in there. But Aztec is going to be working on that tree replanting plan for us. This was strange because no other agencies required tree mitigation. Typically, you would see either for bad habitat or floodplain, you would see some type of mitigation ratio required for tree removal, but nobody required it, and I think it's just really responsible for the county to replant some of these trees by the lake. So I appreciate your support on that. Permit status, this is just for our environmental permits. Currently working on the construction stormwater permitting, since we'll be disturbing a total 8 acres for these 2 projects. So that has been just about completed, finishing up the paperwork on that. The wetland 41444 permitting through IDEM and the Corps of Engineers, that's already been submitted and will need to be resubmitted at the end of next year because we won't be finished by December 2024, but that's all easy enough to do, so that's all in the works. That is my presentation, very short and sweet. I probably could have done more if this were the only agenda item, but does anyone have any questions on this project?
Looks like you have.
I do have some. Anything, Julie? Oh, you're going.
I'll wait. Go ahead.
I guess now that we're kind of continuing to move this forward and entering the construction phase, I was wondering if we have any kind of idea of what the cost is going to be for stormwater, and if we could get some of those numbers in advance to allow me to digest them, because when I see big numbers and and it's the first time I react to them, and if I give them in advance, maybe when I come here they won't be such large numbers. I don't deal with big numbers, and
Sure.
I'm anticipating some large dollars to finish this project. So I'm wondering what cost is stormwater going to have to bear to really bring this project to completion.
Yeah.
As you can see, 2017. I took office in 2016. This whole thing's been here the whole time. I've been in a leadership role, so I'm really wondering what it's going to look like when we're done, and ultimately how much more cost is the stormwater going to have to put out to get this to the finish line. With that, I think one thing we could do to be very proactive in this with the tree removal, which I think is going to be a big part of this conversation, but I think there's going to be a lot of uncertainty of what's going on and potentially speculation from the public if they're not aware of the project. So I think we need to do somewhat of a reach out to the public to inform them what we're doing, so we can help mitigate some of these concerns that they might have with not having too much of an understanding of that we're addressing some of these roads being flooded and people can't kind of leave their homes for a couple of days. That photo you had with the flooded road, I literally launched my kayak at that point once and spent the whole day on the lake, and then got back off, and as I'm putting my kayak back on the car, I can see the makeshift trails from folks that live up there that are coming and down on their whatever means that they had. I think I saw a 4-wheeler out there or what, and they're pulling a little wagon with their family in the back and parking on the side of the road so they can come and go. So this is absolutely needed, and I think if we can get something that folks can digest and we can get it out there and also put it online, so we can point folks not just to stormwater to have you answer questions, but if they call like the surveyor's office or the commissioner's office, we can point them to a web page that has this information, so they know that we're not just out there taking down trees. Also, I think sometimes with that bad water taste, that could just really grow to this point of like, what the heck's going on? So I think whatever we can do to inform the public will be very helpful, because again, a lot of that is people not understanding what's going on, and 1,000 trees is a lot.
Yeah.
And finally, if there's some way to put together some like bullet point list of phases So we kind of understand kind of how this is going to play out over the next year or two. I don't think this is going to be gone in 2024. I think hopefully we can button it up by then, but it would be really nice to have some of those trajectories or expectations of when we're finishing certain phases of these projects.
So as far as cost goes, the 2019 cost estimate was around 2.3 million for both sections of road. I anticipate that going up a lot because that was pre-pandemic and materials and everything is more expensive. I don't anticipate needing to take on any debt for this project. I think since our fee increase in 2021, I have enough saved up where I should be able to do this without any debt. So I will definitely keep you updated next. I actually have a email I need to respond to from Aztec, but we're going to talk about the construction bid documents and I'll be looking for an updated cost proposal. So I'll keep you updated on that. For public outreach, that's why, I hired Locke Mueller to help me with project management, to help me field some of those questions during tree removal. I absolutely agree. I need a webpage for this project. I have a press release drafted, not by any means nearly finished, but something like that to send out to the public so that they are aware. It may affect access to Cartop State Recreation Area, which I know is very, really important. I've also talked to Friends of Lake Monroe about this. DNR was involved with the environmental assessment and providing their feedback, but I definitely want to loop back with the state recreation folks to let them know our timeline. And list of phases and things. I can work on some materials that will be easily digestible for elected officials and the public to share. So.
Thank you.
I was actually going to ask about public information as well, but I'm wondering if there's a way to put one of those big construction signs up, like they do for a development or something like that, just so folks, give it a name, but make sure that it's clear that this is to alleviate roadway flooding and how long the project is expected to last. I think if you can find some money in the education line or something, maybe even just a text-based postcard, maybe with this map on one side or something that just says, this is what's going on. Here's the website for more information, starting now, whatever. And just mail it out. But then also, I love the fact that you reached out to Friends of Lake Monroe, and I know that the Army Corps of Engineers is involved. If they all have that web address, they can also use that to pass on to people who ask them questions, and we'll do the same in our office and elsewhere. So that's a great idea. Thank you.
Any further questions, comments? Then we're at the end of our agenda. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday, January 10th, 2024 at 3 p.m. and we are adjourned.
Okay, I have one more thing. Sorry,
Pardon?
Lee. I have one more thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, we are not adjourned.
Not adjourned.
We're reconvened.
I want to give a staff update as well for our program. So you'll see a new face sitting next to me here. We have Tina Engel, who will be taking on our Stormwater Administrative Assistant position. She just started last Monday. Lynette here is staying with the Highway Department and will be transitioning into the Operations and Asset Manager position.
Right.
Laura Lane is retiring after 26 years with the county. So
Nice. Great.
Congratulations to both of you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
So Laura Lane will be officially retired by the end of this year?
by Friday.
Oh, congratulations, Laura.
She won't like that I just announced it publicly. But we do appreciate all the work that she's contributed to our program. So.
Congratulations, Lynette and Tina. I've had the pleasure to work with Tina here and there over the years, so I'm excited.
I've known Tina for a while too. So.
I will say happy holidays, everyone. I'm going on
yes.
vacation next week, and I won't be back until next year, so enjoy.
Have fun. Yes, happy holidays, everyone. And I believe now we are adjourned.
Thank you.